Hello everybody, it's Joe Detective here, and in this video I'm going to be talking to you about the computer setup's audio. So that's headphones and also especially the studio monitor speakers, which you should probably be opting for. So, studio monitor speakers, what is the purpose of them in music production or any kind of creative content creation stuff? Is to recreate the audio through your device how it's really recorded. To recreate that audio as accurate as possible. So when you do a little mix on it, you do little effects on it, you change it up a bit, you have a very clear sense of how it should actually be heard. Studio monitors, it's the equivalent of having a Pro Art type of display with great color accuracy. With studio monitors we go for the sound accuracy. That's what we are seeking there. Studio monitor speakers though, they have wide variety of connections in them. XLR, some are USB, some nowadays can even be Bluetooth. I used to have the Behringer Truth. Was it 2031 speakers? Those were great speakers, but they were oversized for my situation. You could get them really fucking loud. Sometimes studio monitor speakers have a subwoofer, and that subwoofer is usually its own unit. With studio monitor speakers though, they usually sell that subwoofer as a separate unit. Most of my audio production is done on headphones though, these Rode NT100s. Studio monitor speakers can have some problems though. They can have static noise. That's what my Behringers had. So that's a little hiss in the speaker. It was one of the reasons I sold them. And studio monitor speakers can be a pain in the ass too, because you probably will need an audio interface. And if you use the Linux operating system like I do, now the Debian 13 that just came out, not all of those audio interfaces are compatible with the Linux operating system. And in the previous times I had an M-Audio audio interface first for those speakers, the Behringers. And it was a shitty audio interface because it blue screened. It was the cause of a lot of blue screens on the Windows operating system. I also had the Scarlett 2i2 or 2i4, and that had problems too when I changed to Linux. It worked great on Windows, but when changing to Linux, shit. But there's USB straight connection also studio monitor speakers. Those are going to be a bit smaller size usually. To some studio monitor speakers you can attach that subwoofer and to some not. But usually studio monitor speakers are never attached with a 3.5mm cable. They use XLR or 6.3 inch. 6.3mm. For some studio monitor speakers you might get stands for them. And if you have a very wide table, you might be able to place them on that just fine. But keep in mind that some studio monitor speakers are very heavy. Very heavy. They weigh 10 kilos per speaker. So you slap them on some cheap ass table like this. Not a good idea. Depends on your living situation. You have neighbors, this type of stuff, apartment buildings. You probably are not going to go for the top end with the subwoofer on the floor, this type of stuff. And manufacturers of these are varied. Behringer is one, it's a lower end. Genelec is one, that's a Finnish brand from where I'm from. Then there's KRK. There's a lot of manufacturers nowadays of these speakers. Some studio monitor speakers have the element in the speaker showing. They usually have a tweeter and a woofer. The woofer can usually go down to about 50 Hz. And then there's the subwoofer that can go down to that 20 Hz or even lower. The tweeter is usually up to something like 20,000 Hz. And the reason for these speakers is sound accuracy. It matters in production, but it also matters in content listening, experiencing stuff. If I would buy speakers for listening to music, I would highly recommend to go for studio monitor speakers, because consumer grade type of hi-fi speakers, they many times have their voice characteristic quite muddled, quite over exaggerating of certain parts in the audio. They wouldn't be a great choice if you really want to have a great idea of where I'm actually going with this and how it's going to sound to the end viewer or the end listener. It's going to, of course, depend upon their sound systems then. Thanks for watching this explanation of studio monitor speakers.